few crops deserve their own video when it comes to what you're starting for this season, but there is a crop, it is the tomato. And at the same time, we're gonna start some of them and give you some tips on how to grow them, but I wanna kick it off with a variety that might even be started in my yard right now. And that would be actually this one here that I got. I don't even remember where I got these, but this is the world's smallest tomato, also known as the currant tomato or Solanum pimpinellifolium, aka
the pimp. I'm gonna cut that off. But yeah.
So this is a species of tomato that is really one of the original species.
Yeah, like a wild.
It's effectively a wild tomato. They're very small. They're almost the size of a pea, I would say. Maybe slightly larger.
They're teeny. Like they're a lot of effort for the tomato you get, but it is a unique flavor. I did find it interesting. I liked it.
I would say the currant tomato is an effort to pick. But to grow, it's actually a lot easier than most tomatoes.
Straight. That thing was all over the garden. No problem.
You just don't have to do a whole lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going in. I don't need many of these. So I'm going to go in with just 2 seeds per hole on the pimp. And then I'm going to put my little label in. And by the way, guys, we just released these. These are the epic plant tags that just watch this.
Yeah,
just watch right here.
Satisfying.
They perfectly slot in to a 6 cell, just like that. And they're super, super durable. Anyways, I'm going to go in with just 2 cells. I don't need many of these.
Yeah, I'm going to go this way. So I could go to like 2 cells at a time.
Same.
And the one I'm going to start with is the early grow. So this is one that's just a tried and true classic. I think it was actually developed in San Diego, which also makes me want to grow it even more. But it's just one of those tomatoes that actually tastes like something, but is still an early producer, and that's what draws me to it.
Reminds me of like the glacier style.
Yeah.
But perhaps because early grow was developed kind of in our area, it will do a little bit better for us.
The glacier produces more and earlier in my experience, but they're just a little bit too watery compared to this.
That's fair.
They're good for like a sauce, but this is just an ideal tomato.
Okay, my next one, again, this one's from a company called Heirloom Seed House. Big fan of these guys. They sent out a bunch of seeds, and we also bought a bunch of seeds. This is the Pianola Vesuvio Yellow.
Oh, okay.
So this is a very classic Italian, what's called storage tomato. And what that means is there's a little bit less water content in the flesh, and there's a little bit of a thicker skin. So those 2 factors combined, Jacques, basically mean that this tomato, once harvested, and you would keep it on the vine.
Yeah.
This tomato can basically hang like an onion might. Yeah, exactly. And you can leave them for sometimes months.
And I'm joining you with the red version.
Oh, really?
I happen to choose this one.
Nice.
This one's from Bene Seeds. They have a lot of like Italian style tomatoes, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just excited to try it out. Usually I start these in the latter half of the season.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I want to store them, but I just want to get a good crop of them early to see if I even like the taste.
The thing about any tomato is you can start it and baby it in whatever indoor setup that you have, and you can really kind of wait till that optimal time. I'm doing this one because last year we started a ton of different storage varieties from Heirloom Seed House, and I just got absolutely smacked by disease that year. I mean, it was just
I'm going to talk about it.
Not nematode, blight, etc. So I want to give it another shot with our best performer. For me, the yellow was the best performer last year.
That's right. Yeah.
So we're just going to give it another shot and see.
So this one is the moneymaker. This is one that I've been wanting to try for a while, and it's an old variety. It's an heirloom. It's the closest to having a money tree in your backyard. So it produces a lot of tomatoes. They're supposed to taste good. Yeah. And for me, that's really what I'm looking for. So we'll see. Try it.
All right. I'm going with a pretty cool tomato here. This is the pineapple tomato. And to me, I really want like a beefsteak slicer. Some of my favorite ways to use tomatoes is probably the most classic summer prep, which would just be slicing them fresh off the vine. A big beefsteak. You slice it maybe half a centimeter thick, I would say.
Yeah.
And then you just layer in some cheese or some herbs. It doesn't matter, any cheese.
Take me home.
Any cheese, take me home. So the pineapples are really good ones. It's low acid.
Yeah.
And it's high flavor. And these particular tomatoes can get to be about 2 pounds or so. So because I'm starting, I think I have about 8 varieties, Jacques. I'm just going to do 2 of each right now. I don't need an insane amount when it comes to a slicing. When it comes to some of my later picks, I'm going to want more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't need a lot of tomato varieties. But
it's more of a lot.
Your boy's gonna start at least 30. We're gonna have at least not right here because I'm still debating on some of the other ones. But one that I'm not debating on, this one's from Tomato Fest, and it's a Cherokee chocolate. So You know, Cherokee Purple, classic, delicious. My favorite, honestly, one of my favorite slicers. This one's a darker version of that. Now, usually in both of our experiences, I feel like we don't like the dark tomatoes as much.
I had a phase, but that phase hasn't been recent, I would say. It's been like, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, I would grow a lot of the kind of odd colored ones.
Yeah, and so I'm curious. I like the Cherokee Purple. If this is just a darker sort of morph, then I'm down.
Speaking of tomatoes I do want a lot of, this is going to be the Italian Roma, also known as the San Marzano, although in this particular case, you can't call it the San Marzano, but effectively you're growing a San Marzano tomato. So this one, I'm going to empty the packet because this is your saucing tomato. And I believe it was 2 seasons ago where I got 40, 50 pounds of saucing tomatoes. I made a huge stock pot and I just sauced it for a whole day. And it was amazing, amazing, amazing.
So this one I've never grown before, but it really caught my eye. It's called Golden Jubilee. And now the thing that caught my eye about it is that it says it's mild low acid, which, you know, not speaking to me that heavy, but the thing that I like is that it has small seed cavities. It's a meteor tomato. I feel like I really like the meteor tomatoes most. They just have more flexibility to me in the kitchen. I want them on my sandwich. I want them on anything I'm eating. So I'm going to go in. I'll start 3 and we'll see what happens.
That's not a full beefsteak style. That's more of like a sandwich slicer.
It's kind of in that middle zone, which I actually, honestly, I find like that's the most useful one. Because it's like sometimes like a giant beefsteak, it's hard to get that on a sandwich.
Yeah. I mean, it's one slice. So I went in with 6 of the Italian Roma.
Okay.
Which means I mean, if I grow these really well, I should be able to get many, many pounds of these off the plant.
Easy.
Okay, so my next pick is kind of going along the pineapple vibe, but I'm going with the oxheart. So also known as cuore di bue.
Okay.
Italian, you know.
I was going to say.
It's also known as the pear of Liguria.
Okay.
Check that out.
Hey.
After the northern Italian region where it's been long celebrated. This, again, is a very large tomato and a very interestingly shaped tomato. You can see those ridges.
Yeah, and I think it's also one of those meaty ones, like not very wet.
Sweet, uniquely shaped tomato. So I'm going to just do 2 of them. I don't need a lot of the beefsteaks. I just kind of want more varieties. Every year, when you grow tomatoes as much as we do, you kind of go through vibes, I guess you would say. And so this year for me, I would call this kind of like a middling amount of tomatoes. And for me, that's like 8 to 10, of course, because I've grown up to 30 before, like you, Jacques.
Yeah.
But I do want a nice mix of styles. Yeah. I have purposes for all these tomatoes.
No, it's awesome. Like for me, what I've kind of just started doing, and obviously this is a San Diego sort of gift, is I've been sowing my seeds like over multiple months. Instead of doing all my tomatoes right up front, I kind of do it in waves. So this is my first wave. And I find that gives me the widest amount of production that I could possibly get.
I actually think for every tomato grower, even if you're in a colder zone and your season can only support 1 round, I do think it's still smart to plant some backup crops just in case. Because there's a couple seasons where I've started them roughly around now. So it's sort of like February-ish time.
Classic.
And then I've either missed the window or gone a little too early and I didn't have a backup. And that's where you always got to have a backup.
So these next 2, you can't find them. They're home safe seeds. They're actually from Bulgaria. My parents brought them back. The first one looks like it was properly fermented and cleaned. So that's just clean seed on a paper towel. This is a Polish variety, apparently. And we have a new member on the team who is from Poland. So I was like, oh, that's enough reason for me to grow a tomato, I guess.
Hey, homage.
They could try it out, see if it's legit. The second one is more of that classic saving technique where you're just putting it on a paper towel and letting them dry. So whenever I have this situation,
so there's still that sort of
there's still the
gelatinous coating on it.
So what I like to do is I just literally rip the paper and just plant the whole thing. I'm not trying to separate it
There's
from
no
the
need.
paper.
There's no need.
It'll rot away.
Yeah.
And it'll just work out fine.
Contrary to what I've done most years, at least in the last few, Jacques, I'm going to be going in with a cherry. I have 2 cherry varieties this year, but neither of them is a sun gold this year.
Yeah, I don't actually have any right
And the reason why is because I know you're going to grow it, and I'm just going to eat his. So I've got the opportunity to try some other ones. So this is the Sweetie. This is a pole cherry, much like, a sun gold would be, but you could grow a bush cherry as well. Like patio choice would be a good one. But this is just like a classic, delicious, sort of juicy cherry tomato.
Yeah.
And you've got one too, right?
Yeah, this has actually become one of my favorite tomatoes I grow every year now. I think this is It's rare that I grow the same tomato for like 3 to 4 years in a row. This one's gardener's delight, and it truly is a delight for the gardener.
Yeah.
Because it's one of these cherries where they're not like tiny, they're not huge, they're sort of in the middle, like maybe, I don't know, like that. But
Yeah,
sort of
inch and a half, let's say.
like everyone knows.
A big grape. A big grape.
Yeah, big grape.
Big
There we
grape.
go. Like a big grape.
Yeah.
And they taste really good. They have that sort of classic large tomato taste in the cherry form, and I love that.
So
Boy.
I am going to break from my historical pattern recently, Jacques, and I am going to go in with a high anthocyanin tomato, the Indigo Rose.
Okay.
So this is going to be my cherry style that's a little bit different. These are, looks like 2 ounces, clusters of 6 to 8, purplish brown. Of course, the anthocyanin content.
Yeah.
We're going for the antioxidants on this one.
Yeah,
You know? And I'm curious because I don't know that, probably eaten this one before, but I don't remember the last time I grew it. So we'll see how it tastes.
Yeah.
I'm
I
excited to
don't
see.
remember that one either. So the next two that I'm growing, one's called Big Beef Plus.
Ooh.
Big Beef. And then the other one's Lemon Boy Plus.
Yeah.
Now, usually when they put plus in the name, it's a hybrid that's been developed for disease resistance.
Yeah.
And both of these have high root knot nematode resistance.
Which we had a big problem with this
Big
year.
problem.
Big problem.
So I'm not trying to play any games here.
No.
If I'm starting any non-resistant varieties like all the other ones I did, it's going to be in the early part of the season when it's cooler.
Yeah.
Because the nematodes really activate in late summer.
So I just have one more variety, but I had a couple things I wanted to say. We're starting tomatoes from a lot of different companies here. I mean, I think I got this one off Etsy a long time ago. So I'll tell you this variety in a second. But the one thing I did want to say is if you see any packets like this with the illustration, the white packets, this is our brand. This is Botanical Interest. It's a 30-year-old seed company. And we have 750 varieties of non-GMO, heirloom, and organic seed and tons of tomato varieties. Not more than what we just showed you in this video. So you can always check those out at botanicalinterests.com. And then this right here, Jacques, is our new grow light.
Yeah.
Which the problem with most grow lights is that they do not put out enough light in the usable spectrum to grow a seedling. You see these seedlings right here. You know, when you go to the nursery, well, these are probably grown outdoors, but they're even supplemented with light.
Yes.
Most cheaper end grow lights, at least, do not have the ability.
I was going to say, this isn't even max brightness.
Yeah, watch.
Hit him with it.
Look at that. So you can change to 4 different levels of brightness. You can also set it to an 8, 16, or 12-hour timer. And in our case, we're going to keep it on low just so you can see it, but you would run it like this.
Yeah, and this one, actually, one of the weird things I like about it is that it's such a normal white light.
Yes.
Because then if you put it on your counter, it doesn't look like there's a spaceship in your house, like glowing
It's
purple
just
or
it's just white LEDs.
Yeah.
And then the cool part is it'll fit a standard 1020 tray underneath it, which is this is our 1020 bottom tray with our 6 cells. And then as the tomatoes grow, grab that side for me, Jacques. 3, 2, 1. It'll come all the way. Let's just go to the max. Let's go to the max. It'll go all the way up
You
here.
could pot up tomatoes under this.
You could have full potted up tomatoes, and of course you'd run it at this brightness.
Yeah.
So we'll put a link in the description for the new light. Let's go back down. And I will now reveal my final tomato, which is the world's smallest yellow tomato.
I was like, I thought you already did that.
No. So this is the world's smallest yellow.
Playing with them.
So I think this is still a current variety, although it doesn't actually say. I got these off of Etsy, like I said. I've grown, I believe, the red one out. I don't think I've grown the yellow one out. So this could be great, or this could really not be. I mean, we'll find out.
We'll find out.
What do you got?
The last one I'm putting in is one that I've seen a lot of people grow. It's actually a classic heirloom that I just haven't got around to. It's the Kellogg's Breakfast.
I've grown that once.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, it's great.
They're giant. I love this kind of red-orange look to it, and I'm just excited. I'm always excited for a new tomato. Somebody told me this one just tastes really good.
It looks really
That's
good.
all I
Let me
need.
see the front of the packet again.
This is from Seed Savers.
That's a nice slice.
Yeah.
That's a nice looking slice.
That
You know,
bright color. Oof.
it reminds me of the first tomato I ever grew,
Which one?
which was Ananas Noir. Have you ever heard of that variety?
I have.
It's like kind of a fiery looking yellow and red. I think I got it from Baker Creek way back in the day. Very excited about that.
Now there is one more
Yeah.
that we're both going to be starting,
Oh, yes.
and that is the Fortamino. Now, I'm not starting it today.
It's a tomato you grow to not have a tomato.
Exactly. This will not give you any fruit that you want to eat. This is a rootstock tomato. So we're going to graft onto it. That's also going to help us with some of those disease issues.
Yep.
But these guys are vigorous. So in my experience, you generally want to start them like a week or something, maybe 3 to 4 days after your primary seeds. That way they'll like be the same size when you graft them together.
Yeah, so what we've done a whole video on this, which I think you should check out because we had a lot of success with it. But basically what you do, pretend like this is my sweetie tomato right here. And what you do is you would take the top off the sweetie, so I'd cut this, and then you would graft it or attach it with some little apparatus to the rootstock or the bottom. So imagine if you rip this one off here. That was painful, but this would be the Fortamino rootstock. You'd take the sweetie top and you'd attach it here, tape around it. They'd fuse, and effectively below the soil, you'd have the Fortamino rootstock with all the benefits that it offers, but above the soil, you'd have the sweetie cherry, which is exactly the one that you want to
actually eat. Yeah.
So it's fantastic, and there's just so many tomatoes to explore. We only did about 8 each.
Honestly, not enough.
And there's probably 20 more that we could do. So hopefully this gives you some interesting varieties to experiment with. As always, shop our tomatoes, shop our seeds at botanicalnterest.com. If you want to check out our new grow light, it works very, very well for starting seeds. And we'll see you on the next one. Good luck in the garden and keep on growing.